Congress preparing to blow the lid off the biggest political cover-up in American history as more troubling information emerges about former President Joe Biden's mental decline. Now, according to a brand new bombshell book, one insider made it clear that there were, count them, 5 people running the country, and Biden was not one of them. So the question is obvious, who was running the show? Well, according to one cabinet secretary, it was Biden's aides who held all the power. Now that book's co-author is actually calling out the undemocratic Biden White House.
Hello， 大家好，我是利恩。哎呀，美国最近政坛因为一本新书的问世呢，掀起了政坛大地震啊！这个地震的威力有多强哈？可以说，因为这一本书，美国参议院都要对这起事件的幕后展开详细的调查。那我们都知道哈，过去一直有一个阴谋论，不知道大家有没有听过，就是说Joe Biden 呢，他不但患有严重的老年痴呆症，而且呢，也一度传出他的身体健康其实是非常的恶化。这个阴谋论其实是在他的任期内就有了，所以那个时候呢，共和党这边就一直抨击说，Joe Biden 的身体根本不适合再参加2024年的总统竞选。那么没有想到呢，美国最左派的主流媒体，可以说是最大的左派主流媒体 CNN 呢，首席华盛顿特派员记者 Jake Tapper 呢，我想可能有的观众朋友如果有常看 CNN 节目的，就会对他的很熟悉啊。Jake Tapper 呢，居然跟另外一个记者就合写了一本书，叫做 Original Sin。这本书详细探讨了 Joe Biden 在2024年竞选期间的健康问题，以及主流媒体跟民主党是如何早就已经知道的真相，并且加以掩盖。那 Tapper 他在接受访问的时候，他就自己承认说，保守派媒体其实当初对拜登的健康状况的报道其实都是正确的，并且表示主流媒体应该进行深刻反思，包含他自己在内。哇，我真的不知道 Jake Tapper 是吃了什么药哈，居然良心大发作哈！
城市豆沙包，城市豆沙包，吃完了30秒之内说的话会诚诚实实。
可以说这样子的言论一出哈，震惊了，我想恐怕连他们自己 CNN 都会非常的 shock 哈。那问题就来了，就是如果是这样的话 ，Joe Biden 健康状况不好，那他执意参选，会不会是 Joe Biden 自己个人意思呢？猛料就来了，这本书揭露出啊，就是 Joe Biden 自己根本没有能力可以主张自己是否要参选。在他背后呢，有5名的这个助理，其实是在帮 Joe Biden 做所有一切的决定，包含什么？包含令人感到毛骨悚然，就是 Joe Biden 在最后任期的几天，不是签署了非常多的特赦文件吗？的这个行政命令来赦免了许多人，当然里面最有名的就是我们之前节目上讲的 COVID-19 的罪魁祸首福奇医师。好，那怪就怪在 Joe Biden 他居然没有用亲笔签名，而是用 Auto Pen。Auto Pen 就是所谓的自动签名机。这个自动签名机就被川普拿来多次攻击说，这个明显的可以推断出，这些被特赦的人都未必是出自于 Joe Biden 在意识清楚之下有行为能力亲笔签名的行为。那么会不会连特赦的这些人都是背后有人为刻意的操纵来迫使的 Joe Biden 使用 Auto Pen 自动签名机来做特赦呢？我们接下来好好的详细的来看一看新闻是怎么来讨论这个相关的事情，我们一起来看。
Hold on to your butts.
These aides were not even Senate confirmed aides. These are White House aides. These were unelected people. And one of the things that really I think comes out in our reporting here is that if you believe, and I think a lot of these people do sincerely believe that Donald Trump was and is an existential threat to democracy, you can rationalize anything, including sometimes doing undemocratic things, which I think is what this person is talking about.
Heard a lot of that in my conversations with Lindy Lee. Meantime, Congress is also investigating that cover-up. The Senate, in fact, wants to talk with 28 top-level Biden officials, while the House is said to be looking into unauthorized use of the auto pen by Joe Biden.
When you sign a document that has legal implications, it has to be signed personally. It can't be signed by an auto pen. So I think that if we can understand more about the auto pen and whether or not Joe Biden authorized it, I think this could lead to a lot of those executive orders being kicked out in court.
James Comer speaking there with Jesse Waters. Meantime, House Republicans are also demanding to hear from Biden's doctor and 4 other White House officials in an effort to uncover the truth. So joining us now is the Judiciary Committee Chair and Ohio Congressman, the great Jim Jordan. Congressman, listen, this is a simple question for you. What, if anything, can we expect to happen in the wake of these House investigations into the Biden cover-up and the auto pen use?
Well, I don't know if there's an easy answer. I mean, we'll see. I think Chairman Comer will probably lead this investigation. We can look at the folks who were supposedly making the decision. One thing we know for sure, it wasn't Joe Biden. So we can talk to these folks. My guess is they'll try to assert some privilege if, in fact, we ever bring them in. But I think it's right that in your lead there, you talk about it's supposed to be people who put their name on the ballot, who are elected by we the people who make the decision. It's not supposed to be other folks who aren't elected or, in this case, aren't even confirmed by the United States Senate. So we'll dig into this. But I think the real culprit, of course, is the media. And you mentioned that. But, I mean, Jake Tapper made money telling us everything was fine. Now he's making more money writing a book telling us, no, it wasn't fine. I think that's the real concern here is what the mainstream media got away with or what they thought they were getting away with. The good news is the American people figured it out on November 5th and made sure President Trump was our next president.
They sure did. Congressman, I want to stick on the topic of Biden's auto pen use. You know, specifically, we're hearing that he used the auto pen to sign executive orders, right? Issuing pardons. Senator Roger Marshall last night told us that could be a huge problem.
They didn't think we understood. They didn't think we knew what was going on, but we did. And I'm especially concerned about the people that he pardoned. And he was pardoning these folks, even though they hadn't been convicted of a crime. It just doesn't add up.
不过坦白说哈，在美国，基本上你只要能够掌握一些政治圈上面的内幕或是丑闻呢，多半光是靠写书都可以大发利市。所以不能排除 Jake Tapper 他不光是良心发现，他当然也想要借此狠狠的赚一笔。那么我们要另外看一件事情，就是说，2025年5月份呢，才爆发出来说，拜登已经被确诊罹患的这个恶性的前列腺癌，深入到骨髓bone marrow 里头去了。那就有医生就表示说，其实前列腺癌它是一个很长期的癌症，如果说都已经到了临床末期才宣布确诊说有这个恶性到骨髓的前列腺癌的话，它事实上这个前列腺癌早在很多年以前一定是早就被确定出来的。也就是说前列腺癌到骨髓发展的阶段的话，它不会是你在短时间之内最近才发现的事情。
You believe it is likely if this prostate cancer has spread to the bone that he could have had it for up to a decade, but certainly it's likely. Would it be fair to say it's likely to have had this for at least several years?
Oh, more than several years. You don't get prostate cancer.
So again, I just want to stop you. So this is not speculation. If you have prostate cancer that is spread to the bone, then he's most certainly, you were saying, had it when he was president of the United States.
Oh, yeah. He did not develop it in the last 100, 200 days. He had it while he was president. He probably had it at the start of his presidency in 2021. Yes, that I don't think there's any disagreement about that.
And I'm just curious again, if your doctor to a president of the United States that is a male, that is an older man, would a prostate test, and again, we're just talking about a PSA screening, a blood test that you could do along with all the other blood tests. It's not even that it would be intrusive. Would this not be one of the first tests that you would conduct as a White House doctor?
If you're a White House doctor in this situation, I think you would certainly discuss it with the president and talk about the pros and cons. I think if you then ask, well, if President Biden says, well, if I'm your father, which patients often do, what would you recommend? I think the fact is that most White House doctors would recommend getting the test. And again, the evidence is, look at President Obama, President Bush, younger than President Biden, and they both got the test.
所以换句话说，这个是不是又是一个刻意隐匿、知情不报的事实？在 Jack Tapper 的书中，他也针对了这个前列腺癌有所描述，就是整个美国的左派的主流媒体圈其实都晓，大概只有右派我看是还蒙在鼓里哈，其实都晓得 Joe Biden 早就已经罹患了前列腺癌。照美国的一个法治精神来讲的话，任何一个罹癌的总统，他都是非常非常不适合担任美国总统候选人的。好，这个就好像我们讲说，好，犯罪者不适合再继续担任牧师。
OK 不 OK？ hard 不 hard？
也是一样的道理哈。那么对美国来讲，你如果是一个罹患癌症的 总统不是在于说你自己的行为能力如何，而是这是一个重大的国家安全，就不应该担任总统候选人。可是民主党那时候还是照样推啦，只不过推上去之后发现说，民调显示拜登远远的落后于川普，所以呢，才临时再把他拉下来换成贺锦丽上去。简单讲就是民主党他们已经罔顾了人民对于总统 所需要的一个健康状况的最低限度。那我们也可以从这个角度再回推一件事情，就是民主党可能不认为台面上的民主党总统有那么了不起。好，大家了解我意思吗？因为一旦民主党执政，这个国家在真正运行、在决定政策权力核心的人是背后的深层政府的团队啊。所以这个才是为什么让共和党在这一本新书当中全面炸锅的原因，并且呢，透过参议院这边 立刻展开严厉的调查，是要揪出 Joe Biden 背后的幕僚，等于有没有涉及到隐匿不报的非法犯罪行为。
Congressman, on that note, do you think those pardons or executive orders, are those void and valid?
Well, I think what you have to demonstrate is that the folks who actually signed them or whoever did, or whether it was the auto pin or what, that somehow Joe Biden didn't really give it the okay. Now, I think if you get them in, they'll probably say, well, my boss told me it was fine, or we heard that the president said it was fine. We got okay from whoever we worked for there in the White House. I assume they'll do some kind of rationale, some kind of answer like that. But again, you got to work through this all. Well, if we bring these folks in, you have to ask them. You may have to even subpoena. And then at some point when they come in, will they assert some kind of privilege, executive privilege? That's all part of it. We'll just have to see. But as I said, I think the Oversight Committee under Chairman Comer on the House side will probably lead this investigation.
其实我认为这个在的显示出美国民主党过去跟所谓深层政府也就是 CIA 军工复合体，其实早就有高度密不可分的一个利益共生的关系。所以拜登的竞选到我们看到中途又 突然的临时走马换将，换上了贺锦丽。拜登自己也多次表示说，他并不是自愿性的要来换这个贺锦丽。都可以看到一件事情，就是其实拜登他自己背后真正在操控所谓美国民主党的总统候选人，都是一个很庞大的深层政府。包含了像 民主党的这些前政治精英，奥巴马啦、克林顿夫妇等等等等，他们反而才是更关键的 key man。好，那最后我放 美国保守派的运动大将 Ben Shapiro 这个哈佛辩论天才呢，在他的 Ben Shapiro Show 也特别谈到了这本书的问世以及带来美国政坛的影响，在片尾的部分给大家宝贵的 Ben Shapiro Show， 希望大家呢可以了解到美国人民对于这背后所潜藏的这种看不见的操控力量的担忧。我们这边是超级神队友，我们就下部影片再见，拜拜。
Every American watching their television at any point when Biden was on it for a second saw this. This is shocking stuff. Everyone should be outraged.
Questions continue to mount over Joe Biden and the insane conspiracy to try to ensure that he remained president despite the fact that he did not have a functional brain. Interview between Sally Quinn, the Washington Post columnist and longtime Washington, D.C. insider, and Tara Palmieri, in which Sally Quinn accuses Joe Biden of elder abuse.
Well, I felt sorry for Joe Biden because I didn't think she was protecting him. She wasn't protecting him from himself. And after that hideous debate, right after the debate, they're in the spin room and she got his hand up and they're victory, we won, it was great. And the next day he's off in North Carolina and making a victory speech. I thought, what were they watching? I thought it was just elder abuse, really, what they were putting. Wow.
And Sally Quinn is sort of an ultimate DC insider. She spent years kind of hanging out with the hoi polloi inside the Washington, D.C. Beltway. She said everybody thought he shouldn't run. People were just distraught that he was running and thought it was terrible for the party. I think everybody was horrified. He was put in a position where he was allowed to run by both his staff and his wife. People felt sorry for him. Quinn said, listen, looked like dementia to everybody.
Well, it looks like the beginning of dementia to me. My husband had dementia. He was diagnosed 8 years before he died. And it didn't really get severe until the last 2 years of his life. But it was clear that, I would see him, he'd be making a speech and he'd forget where he was and he would stumble. And I finally just said, no more speeches. I told everybody in his office, no more speeches, no more public appearances.
Now, again, she ain't wrong. Meanwhile, the GOP is starting to look into the possibility of investigating how the White House actually handled Joe Biden's health. Senator Ron Johnson is now launching an investigation, according to Axios, into former President Biden's health. Apparently, he's going to try to find out who knew what when, which, of course, is fully warranted given the national security implications of having a dementia patient as president of the United States. That's also a point made by Senator John Cornyn of Texas. Here he was.
We're talking about the leader of the free world, the commander in chief. This is a national security issue. And to have a completely dysfunctional president, as apparently President Biden appeared to be, and now with those latest revelations of his other health issues, kept from the American people, this is something that needs to be investigated. That's the reason for the letter. And I look forward to getting the results from the Attorney General and the FBI.
Joining us on the line to discuss this and more is the executive editor of the Daily Wire and host of the Morning Wire, my friend John Bickley. So, John, a lot going on in the news. Obviously, a continued cover-up of the Biden medical decline. It's a pretty amazing thing. Obviously, this week we saw new details emerge, not just from Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson's book regarding President Biden's senility, but also the Biden family announcing that the president has probably fatal cancer. What did you guys make of it?
Yeah, I step back every now and then this week. I've stopped and just said, look, we're witnessing the biggest presidential scandal in American history. This is massive, and the breadth of it, the depth of it, the significance of it, it can't be overstated. And yet the media is trying to cover this up. They want us to move on from it. They obviously were part of the cover up from the beginning, now have downplayed it significantly and want us to move on now to the rest of the news cycle. And, on our show, we've been trying to really emphasize this and not let this go. I know your show, part of your vision for your show is to bring some balance here to the national conversation. We're trying to do that on Morning Wire. And so we're hammering this pretty hard. But the Media Research Center just released a study that is really stunning. So we have, again, the biggest scandal we've ever seen. And yet the big three spent a total of, from May 13th through the 19th, a total of 7 minutes covering the absolutely jaw-dropping discoveries about what actually took place behind the scenes, where we had a fake president. We had a Politburo running the country. The media is not interested in this. 6 minutes of that 7 total minutes was from NBC. ABC, 37 seconds from May 13th through the 19th on this story. CBS, 22 seconds on it. PBS NewsHour, MRC found no seconds on this story. And again, what we've seen here is the media's complicity in this cover up. It's more a media scandal than anything else, I would argue. And they want us now to move on. We're not going to do that. So one of the things that's come out in the last couple of days that's just stunning, the Biden campaign put on a fake town hall. It was a 90-minute town hall. They spent millions on this. And the point of this was to astroturf it, put chosen people in the audience, paying a lot of folks here, and it was going to make Biden look good. He was so inept. He was so incoherent that they didn't release a single second of this multi-million-dollar project. 90 minutes, not a single second of it came out. This is how incapacitated he was in his final year. And we know that this now, the revelations from the book, again, that the media is not covering, this goes back from day one of his presidency. Laura Trump called this out in 2020, was shamed by Jake Tapper for doing so. We all saw it. The American people witnessed this. It was very obvious way back in 2020. By 2021, who was running the country? We don't know. We've learned a little bit. It's a Politburo again of close advisors to the president, a group of 4 men, and then Jill Biden's enforcer increasingly took over. Hunter Biden increasingly took over. Extremely alarming. Even Jake Tapper, to his credit, he's releasing this stuff and doing some apologizing, but he understated, I think, the fact that we learned that Hunter Biden played such a role. He said, this is problematic, because he's not the best guy. This is shocking stuff. Everyone should be outraged.
I mean, one of the things that I think is fascinating about the way that this story is now being covered is there are really a few different strains. There are people who continue to maintain that everything was fine, above board, and hunky-dory. That includes people like Joe Scarborough, who's maintained that over at MSNBC. Whoopi Goldberg, of course, is doing that over at The View. Then you have members of the media like Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson, who actually are doing some very good reporting now. And so the big question for the right is, why were they not doing this sort of reporting when it was happening, since we did have a president whose brain was not functional for the last year and a half of his presidency at minimum, maybe more than that. And so that sort of question, I think, is going to hang over the media for a very, very long time to come. And then you have, again, the members of the media who sort of claim that they didn't have anything to do with this, that they were completely bamboozled. And it's that last group that I have some trouble believing. The sort of group where it's like, well, I wasn't suspicious at all. I was just completely taken in. I mean, all of us could see in real time that the president was degrading. And it's absolutely unbelievable to be told by, again, a lot of those same folks that there was no way for them to see it other than for us to just recognize that they were viewing all of this through a political lens, and the political lens was stop Donald Trump at any cost. And if that means covering up the infirmity of the president of the United States so that his drug-addled son can run the country, then sure, I guess that's what it means.
It's interesting. We did an interview with Batya Ungar-Sargon. She's a real force on this. And she has the sort of class perspective that I think is fascinating. And we asked her that, why is the media so willfully ignorant and then actively covering up this situation? And she said, in the end, it is the class of elites. They come from a similar background. Their goals are the same as the Democratic Party's goals. And that's really what's operating here. And that, it's funny. And it's like you're saying, the group in the media that say, oh man, we had no idea. Every American watching their television at any point when Biden was on it for a second saw this. So you're asking us what we're really saying here. This is damning, is that you're either an idiot, you have no common sense, or you're lying to us. Either one of those prospects is really damning for legacy media outlets. How can we trust you? Your credibility, either you're deceptive and manipulative, or you're really that dumb. Either way, I should turn you off and turn on shows like the Ben Shapiro Show.
And like The Morning Wire, which is now available on video, wherever your video podcasts are available. It is a beautiful looking show, by the way, and really some fantastic information every single morning. John Bickley, executive editor of The Daily Wire and host of The Morning Wire. Really appreciate it, John.
Yes, we know the cornerstone is Christ alone, our hope now forever.